Okay. Oh, you do this.
Are we recording?
We're live.
We're live. Episode 7 or 8. I don't know.
Yes. Welcome to another daily.
Monthly, weekly. I don't know.
Monthly,
We're here.
weekly.
Thank you. Welcome back. We are post quarterfinals.
For the age group.
We are post quarterfinals for the age groups, and now we're pre semifinals.
Yep. In fact.
No, this week.
Yep.
So we've got Jarrett in Europe with Lucy and a couple other athletes, and then Asia. We've got 2 athletes in Asia as well, which will be awesome. First data points will come through tomorrow. No.
Yep. Because I think some of them are not live for the Friday event 1. But I think both these regions are fair game, right?
Yeah. So is day 1, none of it's live for us, right?
For North America, correct.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But we can get into craziness later.
We're going to
right?
have Jarrett just wear a spy pin.
Yeah. We're gonna bring GoPros and have them strapped to the end of the lane. Yeah.
Cool. So what's been going on here? Let's do a recap since last time we talked.
Yeah. So that would have been a couple of weeks. Well, that would have been during or just after quarterfinals.
Yep.
So after all the shenanigans what happened in quarterfinals, here we are finding ourselves. The age groups just completed their quarterfinals. So at the moment, they're currently going through the whole structure of reviews and all that stuff. So I guess we'll hold off before celebrating that. But I think in terms of celebration, I think everyone who's participated in that, congratulations to them.
Yes.
When we looked at the breakdown of the workouts, we thought they were exciting tests for people to get involved in. So well done to them.
And we had 5 people here in house that did them, which was cool. Riley came in 5th in her division. RJ won.
Yep.
At the moment, sorry. We will keep this unofficial for now. And then unofficially, we've got 20 athletes that have made it, which is awesome, across all divisions and adaptive and all the age groups. So can you talk to us a little bit about, because this is the first time we've done this, everyone that was on a proven track that made an age group semifinal got to have a private track with our coaches. So can you go through that a little bit? Yeah, no, well, semifinals now. So, we got to work with them one-on-one a little bit, completely free to them, which was awesome. So we got to meet them for the first time. Just tell everybody about that a little bit.
Yeah, so what happens is once we go through the quarterfinals and we have success there, we know who's moving on to the next stage, we then have them reach out or we reach out to them. Do you want to get that, Nick? Are we serious?
I think my iPad just turned on for the first time in 2 weeks. And all of the notifications
come through.
Continue, Shane.
Sorry, where was I? So then, leading into the semifinals, we reach out, or they reach out to us, and then we put them on a private track that is designated or precisely for their needs. Okay. Oh.
I don't know.
It sounds like Candy Crush or something.
If you guys
like
can't
that.
hear this, the iPad's just making
Could you
a lot
hear
of
this,
noises.
Brad? We could hear this. So anyway, where was I? And then we then work with them on a daily basis or weekly basis, depending on how frequent they want to be in touch with one of our coaches, and then we help prepare them for the semifinals. So this is probably a good shout out for those age group qualifiers as well. If you find yourself in the same position now, training for the games, which is fantastic, we would love to work closer with you guys. So if you're on our tracks, whether you be on our age group, or our compete track, even in the affiliate space, or even in our Proven 60 track, by all means, if you're part of that community, we would love to work close with you to give you the tools to advance your game for the games.
Yeah. And then I think it was awesome, like, now that we have our gym, we got to use the conference room for big team calls, and all the coaches got to be in that, which we've never had before, which was really fun. And getting to know those people a little bit better was cool because the field is so much bigger now. We got to capture some more athletes, and they get to go, because it was top 10 before. So now we get the 30 in each division. They've got even longer to train past our games athletes for the individuals and teams. So we can work with them even longer.
I think it's an additional month, and they're on the same weekends.
Different locations.
So navigating and coordinating with that, it seems to be easy in terms of progressions and strength cycles or gymnastics or aerobic cycles that we have actually templated out. But spreading ourselves for the coaching staff to be on both ends, it just something logistically I think everyone needs to work through too. And I know there's instances where there's like mother and daughter have made it to this stage. So that's a dividing weekend.
You got to just start getting ruthless there.
Yeah. So, but it seems exciting. I think the feedback collectively from the age group qualifiers that we've had in-house and reached out to seems to have had a pleasant weekend. I think there was absolutely a learning curve there in some of the workouts, particularly one, and then the rest was more of a capacity and finding their groove throughout those workouts. So excited to see how that plays out, and that's something that Nick and I or the team have spoken about of what we want to dive deeper into as the age group audience or let's say as a whole of just like that demographic, because we see so much untapped potential in their abilities. Because if you look at what a 13, 14-year-old are doing, it's unparalleled to what we've seen in like 5 years ago, right? And even for the 35 to 45 age group and beyond, to see the capacity expand now, that's just enticing for us of like what's important or what's impressive to us as coaches and seeing the development there. So that's something that we want to work deeper into, and I think being closer or grounded with the age group qualifiers this weekend, that's been a real pleasant experience, but also it was actually exciting to see the passion that they have, right? Like that's such a big weekend for them. It's their semifinal, so it's really awesome to see.
And I keep coming back to it, but I think it's just having our own gym now. We've never had the opportunity to host people, which is cool. Like even Akil, who was here for 3 weeks before for quarterfinals, like you said, that's a kid that if I just watched him move, he doesn't look like a 14-year-old. He just turned 14, so even those kids are crazy. And on the other end, everybody gets old. Right? We all get old, so there's always going to be an ability to compete now for those people, no matter what division they're in, even 65 plus. Like we've got Dave in here doing things at his age that you would never guess, which is crazy. So I think like for us as a company, it's something that we want to be agile to, because we are obviously based in the competitive individual field, Tia, you, everything you've ever done. But to be able to kind of move that into Jarrett working with those people and bringing his expertise and yours as well to the age groups as a whole, like, I think if we work with the individuals that are games athletes for a 5-year period, let's say, that's great. That's really good. But then they've got 40 plus years after that. So I think we're getting really good data at this point now, and it's good to see the games kind of highlighting them more, I think. And I'm hoping that these events being separated will probably showcase them more rather than just being thrown into the group in Fort Worth in August.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we are 2 weeks into semifinals training for our individuals, back to them.
Yep. How's
everything going with everybody in-house here?
Yeah, in-house, fantastic, right? I think we're through that. We're in that period of time where we're doing a lot of testing. The workouts were announced possibly like a whole week earlier than we naturally or normally see. So for some of our athletes in week 3, we did a conscious effort of like not touching those workouts.
Chill out.
Yeah, don't get caught into the rat race right away. In fact, allow week 1 and week 2 to put their testing and utilize that information to then build a better strategy or plan for yourself before actually touching it. And the reason being is that we just don't want to be finding ourselves repeatedly doing these workouts. And for some of our athletes, we're looking beyond that for the games. So we want to make sure that we're still utilizing this time to touch on things that will be appropriate for games prep. You know, still touching that sandbag, still doing some form of dumbbell or bench press style, obviously working on a range longer than 30 minutes. So we're making sure we get those touch points. However, as a coach and working closely with the coaches, is that we build out workouts now when it's our primary workout of the day. It fits into one of the categories of the workouts, meaning that it might be a machine into handstand with some variation of that, or we get some more double under touches here, or we get some more loading, some barbell loading under some form of fatigue. So we're simulating some of them as we normally would, but we've now can make that more precise, tailored towards the semifinals. Anyway, advancing forward to that, to week 1 and 2, those guys are deep into the touches. So they've just done their weekend, their mock weekend, and now we give them a day or two of just regular training, so to speak, and then we invite them to go, hey, which one would you like to touch again? If so, we will implement that in appropriate time. But if not, and generally not many want to redo the whole weekend again, we then just do variations of styles and making sure that a lot of the stimulus is still there, intensity isn't touched, and that we sustain our strength-based training given that the weekend doesn't really demand you to go beyond, I think we looked at this, but about 85% of their 1RM maxes in some categories. The snatch is the last bar on the snatch is probably the biggest.
And then 30 minutes with a time cap is like the longest they're going to be going as well.
It's event one, the run and clean and jerk one, which will be, I think, a great way for a lot of these guys to start the weekend, right? It allows them to find their groove. And for instance, if there's a mishap in terms of like you fail one rep in the clean and jerk, it's not detrimental because you technically have another 25 or 30 minutes to overcome that little boo-boo. Where had that been a snatch ladder and you failed the first bar or the last bar, that could be detrimental in overall placing. So it's good. It allows the athletes to find their groove pretty early on, and then intensify as the weekend goes. If you look at the time caps of them, I think it gets shorter as the weekend goes.
Well, I think the opposite of what you just said is true on event 6. If you fail or you get a no rep on those muscle ups, it could be the end of some people's seasons. So, like, I do like that they're going back to that. And they did it last year, too, with that short, fast final to see who wants to kind of wreck themselves for their season, which is good. What's your favorite workout? Like, on paper, from a programming standpoint, not how athletes will do, but if you're just programming.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about it. Like, I think there's a few workouts there where I think will be very accurate leading into the games in terms of like data points, and I think event 1 will be there in terms of running capacity and traditional CrossFit style is event 2 with the double unders, toes to bar, and front squats. I think that'll be very traditional, as you can see who's like a very CrossFit orientated athlete. Specialty athletes come out on the snatch and the handstand walk event. I think that's almost specialty. I think the rope climb one is not a rope climb workout, especially for the men. It's like it's teetering on that threshold. But that's going to be an exciting one. I think I'm excited to see how that plays out. I think there's a lot of questions internally of whether it's step down or jump off the box. So I think there's some internal conversations about that.
I feel like that one's going to be one where we'll see the biggest separation in women, right? Of all 6 events. Like you'll just see a big drop off when it comes to that because they have the same time cap.
Yep. Whew. But like I even think the snatch one, I think to see the development from 2016 to today.
So we saw that at West Coast Classic when we were there in Vegas, right? And that was the last time.
Yeah. Like that's a great touch point or like refresh data point there. But a lot of the guys, in fact, a lot of them in 2016 have retired, but a lot of those guys haven't touched it since 2016, so to speak. So it'll be good to see the development there, especially with Tia. She completed it back in 2016, and I remember us training for that. And the conversations are quite clearly different from then to now. So, so I'm excited to see how that plays out. Tia hasn't tested these workouts yet. This is this weekend for her. But I think it's more about coming back to your question. Sorry, I think I'm intrigued as like a fan of the sport to see how the rope climb workout goes. I am intrigued to see how the snatch ladder goes in terms of like how much have we progressed since 2016. I think we'll see some phenomenal times there, men and women. I'm wondering if anyone gets baited and go and touch and go on that final bar. I mean, that'll just be exciting or electric for the crowd.
Yeah. So we've seen some data on that, obviously, with our camp. Olivia is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, she'll burn this one.
She's very excited about that one. But yeah, so let's go back to that on a programming side a little bit. Do you like that the weights stayed the same from 2016 and before, or do you ever see a need to change that now that the women have advanced a little bit?
No, I still think that's appropriate. Like, this is the thing. Like sometimes, and this is obviously my opinion, but sometimes I think we go and out of a rabbit hole, in a rabbit hole, and make workouts more complex or more advanced than they need to be to find the answer you're looking for. I think these loads are very appropriate still. And I think it's what Dave the CrossFit Games seems to like to do is have a throwback and then we have some form of reference. Yeah, exactly.
Because I feel like what you just summarized was last year's semifinals. You know what I mean? We're just throwing in things at a very high level without any warning to try to just see what happens with the athletes and test where we're at as a sport rather than fitness at the time, which I think these tests or events, whatever we call them now, are much more well-rounded. And I think, like you said, we're going to see pretty much the same people at the games, if they follow the same structure, do about the same. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah. And I think it'll be good because it'll be comparable within each region to some degree, right? The runs, whether they're indoors on a runner or if they're outside or whatever the circumstances there, there'll always be discrepancy. But it'll be good to see relative to their fields. And all the other workouts, I'd imagine, can't be really...
No, there's not many moving parts. I think the handstand walk is a big question for everybody because we don't know what the floor looks like, if there's an obstacle in there. But you would think it'd be the exact same floor.
I think I'm just trying to think of Carson being outside. It's probably the other like asterisk next to that one in terms of data point, because of they might have a hot day, and then if you're doing event 1 out in the sun,
Copa Sur. No, I think that's indoors too. I think maybe
is it like partly like it's sort of open, but
is that like Torian too?
Yeah. Torian will be electrifying. Those guys down there, Mike and John, do a phenomenal event. So if you are in the Australian region,
we have 12 athletes competing down there.
Yeah, that's
which
awesome.
is awesome. So like, if you guys are down there, we did our t-shirt run there. We've got a few extras, so if anybody does want to buy one, let us know. I'm bringing them all over myself. Got an extra suitcase packed for that. But those guys are going to run an awesome event. I've only heard insane things the last 4 years from you guys about it, so I'm more excited about that than anything.
Yeah, and I think they're actually doing this wild thing where if you didn't make the game, if you're not a semifinals athlete, but you think you could beat them in a workout,
I saw that. Yeah,
you could win $5,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that'll be fun to watch. Like, I'm just gonna jump in.
You
at
gonna
the
do it?
Women's weights.
Do you think so?
Power
Which
snatch.
one? Do you power snatch?
I couldn't beat Olivia or Tia. No chance.
I'm not even. I don't know why I'm looking up like I'm thinking.
Do you think there's a
workout.
single workout at the women's weights and standards in this semifinal that you could be top 10 in?
Top 10. I don't think I'm not.
So
the fact that I'm
first,
like, let me think.
The first one running, probably not.
Next.
Second, toes to bar.
No. Next.
30. Then legless.
Next.
Snatch.
What?
I think snatch is the only one we can even like
top 10, but
comprehend.
Nah, next.
Because the ring muscle up is not happening.
Oh no, we're out of events.
Yep, we're done.
No, like honestly, and that just shows how like phenomenal these athletes are. And how terrible I am probably at the same time. In the one breath.
Hey, age group's coming.
Yeah, it's actually here, Nick.
Is it?
I think so. Well, when do you actually become an age group? Is it when the competition starts, you have to be that age?
So you got one more year, I think.
Okay.
You better start training.
I have, Nick.
Oh,
sorry. That's
sorry.
the thing.
All right.
Okay.
So, couple things here.
Yep.
Last time we spoke, we were talking about Hyrox.
Oh, did I do one?
We've got a development.
Oh, yeah.
We've got an athlete doing a Hyrox. So Sydney, obviously you guys know everything that happened with quarterfinals. She has been just on a warpath since to figure out kind of what's next. She had a big year planned for herself, and she doesn't want that to derail her. So obviously back to training, but she did want to switch it up, and she's doing a Hyrox, and it's the very last qualifier for, is it Worlds? Is that what that is? Like, you qualify for
Top
Worlds?
3 of each race then gets invited.
Cool. So she's going to Anaheim in a week, I think. Right? Is that a week?
Yep, this weekend.
Whoa. So she's been hammering all long 60-minute pieces, doing all that. Are you excited to watch that?
Absolutely. I was speaking to Brandon about this like the other day. Firstly, like, credit to her of jumping straight into some other realm and utilizing her fitness. So this has been obviously not what she had imagined to see what her month of May would look like in terms of training. But for the way she conducted herself, I'm just proud of who she's become and how she conducts herself and how she just moves forward. That's first and utmost, the most respect I have. Like, good for her. Because if that was me, I'll see you again in January. And I'll be twice as big.
Yeah.
But for her, that's phenomenal. But more to the event. Really excited for it. Obviously, with 2 weeks preparation, it's not a great deal. However, she's got this foundation of base fitness that is off the charts, which is awesome. A lot of these movements do play into her ability. And I think more than anything, she just wants to have a red hot crack at this.
Yep.
And so that I know Dwight and her are working closely together to give her the best chance. And I think right now she's in a taper phase right now for the event.
Started and tapered all within
all in the same time frame. But it's awesome, man. And that's it. At the end of the day, too, these guys build this foundational fitness. Even our affiliate space, the goal or concept is to be better than yesterday, or to be fitter than. To reach new heights in your fitness, but then express that or utilize that in the real world or outside in the professions or in the crafts that you have interest in, whether it be hiking, Hyrox, CrossFit, competitions, picking up your kids, playing soccer on the weekends, whatever it is. Like, that is a center focus of a goal, like a big piece to what we're trying to create here. So for her to now express that in a field outside of her own, it's phenomenal.
And on a larger scale, it could be cool because if we can just throw a CrossFit athlete into a Hyrox at that level and they do very well, it's kind of a good testament to what we're doing in a training progression and then also from a methodology as well, which is awesome. To that point, like, I just want to go back on what you said about Sydney, like how well she's handled all this, and give a huge shout out to Nick, Matthew, and Luis as well. I think our biggest goal coming into this year was giving athletes more than we've ever given them before and trying to help them become better people and not just athletes. And watching their responses to everything that happened to quarterfinals, it wasn't a victim mentality. It wasn't, this happened to just me and I'm mad at everyone else about it. It was like, hey, this happened. I don't know why it happened, and I hope I get some answers, but I'm moving on right away. Mm-hmm. And all three of them we've had conversations with them. It sucks. Everything about it sucked, but they've been into a headspace of this is my career. I'll be back next year. We're going to figure it out, but I want to get better in the meantime because now I have extra months on my competitors to where I can work on things I might not have been able to train for the games. Yeah. So just huge shout out to those guys. Like, I couldn't have been more impressed. I think the coaches took it harder than they did. And it's not that they didn't care, but they realize I can't just sit around and sulk about this. I've got to figure out a plan. So it's been awesome. Luis is in here working on things that he knows he needs to get better at. Day one after that, he went down, he got on a plane and competed 5 days after, which was great. So shout out to those guys. Like, that was something we didn't see coming, but it was cool to see them move forward with that.
Yeah, it was. It is. It's cool.
So I think we've got a few questions. I'm going to open up this time bomb here. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So one great question somebody brought up, and this is kind of back on the semifinal realm because we are there, how to deal with pressures during competitions from an athlete perspective. So I think we can go a couple of ways with this because as a coach and somebody that's leading an athlete, you see it all. But I know the athletes feel a little bit differently, and sometimes whether you're brand new into the sport or you're a veteran, you're going to feel much differently about those things. You as the head coach, you as the most winning coach in the sport, you didn't like that. I know you wouldn't. But how do you handle this when, like, let's say you've got somebody like, let's go Lucy McGonigal, brand new teenager, doing semifinals.
Yeah.
Yep, good luck this weekend. And then you got Tia. Like, you see those two, there's going to be wildly different stresses on them. How do you handle that?
What, during the competition? Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously they're two different conversations. Maybe with Tia, let's start there. It's more about reassuring her about, like, preparation leading to this point, right? Like, that's where you find your biggest confidence or your understanding of what you're capable for that weekend. Especially now the workouts are released, you know what's capable. You know what you've done, and all you have to do is pretty much show that again, showcase that.
Yep.
There's no point putting expectation of going 2 or 3 minutes faster when you didn't do that in your safest and comfortable environment. So having those expectations from the start from a coach, and then just allowing the athlete to have self-belief in that, hey, this is exactly what you need to do in order to get your best results. So the conversation's about their own performance is based on their efforts, right? Or chasing those same outcomes they did at the training. Throughout it, like the highs and lows, the leaderboard is going to shuffle. On Sunday, you still have 50% of the weekend to go. So, like, there could be a lot of emotions riding on that. Again, it's just more about keeping them grounded and then allowing them to express how they feel, but then providing reassurance throughout that process too. So I know with whatever event may come up, it's just more about just feeding them the information for each workout that is palatable for them, rather than trying to overcomplicate a game plan, because they've done these workouts already once, possibly twice. So it's important for you to like remember their performance and then talk about highlighting points, which they did really well on.
Yep.
But it's more so for Tia, just more so about just being present and then making sure that you're organized for her to then allow her to do what she does best. So meaning that making sure that I share with her ahead of time of, hey, if you're on the floor at 1 o'clock, at 12 p.m., I want to meet you down at lobby and we're going to go walk over. That'll take 15 minutes and we're going to stretch, mobilize, and we're going to be 30 minutes there before they corral you for the last 10 minutes. And there's a toilet break built in there somewhere.
So sorry to interrupt you there. Do you find, because I think that's a good point for like new coaches and people, that do you find that having a set schedule for them that you make works out better than saying, hey, what time do you want to meet me here? Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to eat? Or things like that?
Yeah, so even in our mock weekends, we implement that style of the corrals, doing a warm-up and then getting ourselves psyched up or being in some form of isolation period before then hitting the workout.
Yep.
That way you can sort of be in the character and the mindset. But as a coach, you take that in and go, oh, like how long are they taking to warm up for this? And then you can build that backwards or reverse engineer it. Yeah, that's important, just to take that pressure from the athlete. And it's always better to add another 10, 15 minutes in there just of grace, just in case you get stopped or there's traffic or whatever it may be. You'd rather be there early rather than late and then put pressure on yourself there. So it's just, again, and why I say all that, it's just keeping the athlete calm and that they've got full confidence that you know what's taking place, you know what's going on. But Tia's such a experienced athlete. She knows what she needs to do and she's capable of. And what words I use for her would certainly be different for someone like Lucy, who's just starting to thrive in her career, building momentum in her career. So for her, it's about expectations. For her, it's like, hey, like in terms of mindset, like rather than focusing on other people and everything, like all those other lanes or all the outside noise, it's more about, hey, let's just work on what we can control on, and let's be aggressive or attack each workout to the best of your ability. When you're putting in your mind, I want to give my best at this workout every single time, even if it's in your wheelhouse or not, that's where you're going to find a better outcome rather than, oh boy, this isn't a good one for me. Damage control, you kind of hear a lot of. That isn't a good mindset because you're already in a reverse mindset of like allowing bad expectations to come. That will, I mean, if it's not in your, if you aren't capable of like some of the bars in the snatch workout, that'll naturally play out. That's inevitable, right? But if you're going into the mindset of attacking, I think you've got a better chance. No, sorry, you have a better chance of succeeding because you're going through with it. I'm going to get this done, rather than, oh boy, here they come. So like they're conversations that I want to invite early on with someone like Lucy.
I think event one is going to be exactly what you just said. Like if people are scared going into that because maybe their running ability isn't there and they hold back and are timid on that, I think they're going to get passed early. They're going to get kind of stuck in the back. We don't know what it's like.
But in the past, like last year, there was some form of shuttle run that advanced you to the next round. We haven't had any form of running. So we might see categories of athletes that know how to run. I think we'll be fine in Europe. Like just looking at that leaderboard, there seems to be a lot of aerobic background or some form of like cross country or running background or games running. So we'll see them fairly fine. Asia will be a new realm. Like there's a lot of new names on that leaderboard that I'm not familiar with. But I agree. I think event one, and that's why I think it's a good data point. It's like that's a grindy workout in terms of like, it's easy to mentally switch off and go 3 seconds slower per K. And then by the outcome or by the end of it, right, you're looking with plus the transitions, you're probably looking at a 30 seconds slower by just allowing yourself to switch off for a second.
Even just a second a rep on the bar, that adds up so much if you're doing singles on that stuff. And we don't know if they're moving the bars or what it may be, but I think we're going to see people get lost in their own heads on that one for sure. And I think that's one where if you are a young athlete, I don't think Lucy falls into this category because she's so mentally tough and she's been at the games for so long as a teenager. But you could come out there in event one, say you're in the top 10 coming into it and pull off a 30th place because it's just a workout where anybody can be anywhere. How do you deal with an athlete that has a poor performance just based on where the events lie in order and succession, but they have good ones coming for them, but they get down on themselves because of that placing.
Yeah, I think as a coach, off the bat real quickly, you don't want to start highlighting, hey, you got good ones to come. I think that adds pressure because, as you know, like athletes that know they'll do well at it end up applying more pressure on themselves.
Yep.
I think it's always important to stay present and not look far ahead. It's like, okay, like that just happened, fine. Like let's talk about that real briefly and then let's just shut it off. And then let's talk about what we can control right now. Let's just start being more present and like, hey, even if you had successful event 1 or not, the conversation would be the same. Okay, fantastic. Let's move on and let's start thinking about what we need to do for event 2, meaning let's just get back on the track. Let's get hydration back on track, cool down in place, nutrition in place. And then let's just start having normal, like as a coach, start thinking about getting them back into a normal routine of themselves, like have jokes with them or whatever that maybe get them going on.
So you touched on it a little bit, and I know this with you and how you, and all of our coaches actually do a great job of this, but can you explain a little bit, good or bad, when they come off the floor, do you touch on the event they just did at all during competitions, or do you just immediately move on to the next one?
I think it's athlete to athlete. I think sometimes some of them just want to, well, if it goes well, I think it's important to praise or just talk about that. But I'm more body language style. Like if whether the results in terms of placing is high or low, but their effort and everything they did is executed really well, I'll go in there and hammer them at the highlights going, man, that was awesome. You conducted yourself. We spoke about this, but you went above and beyond. All that good stuff, which they should hear because the CrossFit Games or any event moves so fast that it's forgotten and it's history. But when something awesome happens, it could be the start of momentum for the rest of the weekend. Going, man, there was not a second throughout that event where your head went down. You kept going and it was awesome to watch. Now, that's something that I want to see more of. And event 2 is like right around the corner. Absolutely, let's carry that momentum on. That energy will get the result you're looking for, and then keep praising that. And then now, if the workout doesn't go well, it's more about recognizing that, but still looking for the positives or highlighting the things that went well in that, right? It's like if running isn't a strength and something you haven't worked on, it's like, it's something that you've worked on, but it still didn't play out the way. You can just still talk about like how awesome that was and like you could see yourself. And the fact that you've been doing a lot of running will now allow you to recover faster because your legs won't feel so heavy or jacked up. Start talking about things of highlighting what the athlete's done well, but then, you know, being conscious of cutting it off. Okay, now let's get into our recovery process. Let's get out of here. Let's go get some sleep or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this was something that somebody asked such a really good question of what is a coach's role at a competition. I think we're touching on it perfectly right now. A big one, and somebody had put this in the comments as well, is when an athlete gets no-repped, when an athlete has a miscounting without a judge, whatever it may be, we've all been through this 100 times with the review system, putting in penalties, putting in whatever it may be. How do you handle that one? Because that one can just spiral people's brains and athletes' brains so much because they had no control over it. They could have been out there executing exactly how they wanted to. Maybe they catch a few no reps. I've even seen judges have to miscount, and they're people, right? So it always is going to happen. Can you give people some insight on how that looks on the back end, what you have to go do for them, and then how that looks for them moving on to the next event?
Yeah, so it depends on the case, but I can think of some of the scenarios at the games where some of the, let's just call it inconsistent in judging, and it's just human error at the end of the day, right? Like, and why I say that is because if I'm a judge, and this is the circumstance, what happened, if I'm a judge and I'm standing up and I'm looking at depth, like most of the judges were standing up and looking at depth in the wall ball, that's one perspective. But now if I'm on my knee looking down and I'm watching hip crease, that's a different perspective. So already you can imagine the human error there in judging whether that's a rep or no rep. Anyway, so then whatever the circumstance is, and if the athlete feels that or the coach feels that, like, hey, I think you're you got a few extra reps that you shouldn't, like no reps that you shouldn't have, that should have been reps, then there's an appeal process what the athlete has to do rather than the coach. And you just obviously aided them through supporting them through that. But again, it's a case-to-case basis where fortunately we haven't had it in a very critical like game spot on the line, so to speak, right?
No, not a detrimental one for sure.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's something serious too, where you want to highlight that. It's almost like, in my eyes, I treat it like maybe not as common as soccer, but you do want to highlight that to the committee or to the panel of judges that are doing the review process, because there could be a particular judge that's consistently happening to, and say, let's call it lane 4 every heat, and if everyone keeps putting appeals in, and then there's no appeals in other lanes, and then maybe it's that same judge. And that's happened before too, Nick. So that's like finding consistency. I mean, allowing them to see trends or patterns that the same person's doing something there. It could be that lane in particular. So there, it's important to highlight that.
And the appeal process, it's pretty good. Like when we get to these sanctional events and when we get to the games and things like that, they have full teams of judges in the back and they review footage and they do everything that they can, and they communicate pretty well. So I think it's more so just really important to get the athlete, like you said, athlete's mind back on track.
Okay. So if that's the thing, so then it's like one of those things, you got to shut it off and go, hey, like that happened. Hey, luckily, or good thing, if there's a positive in it, it's like it wasn't a limitation in like your fitness. It was like obviously a discrepancy or a call made from somebody else, right? So I think just how you'd navigate a conversation and be able to bounce forward from there.
Absolutely. So we want to pull up some live questions here that we got. So you guys put in some awesome questions on Instagram.
And feel free to answer them too, Nick.
You're on a roll right now. This is a good one. Okay. We've got a little tease here. So somebody said, I'm hearing rumblings about the Prvn app. What is that?
Well, this is a good one for Nick.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So we have some huge news. We won't get into it too much at this point, but within the next couple months, we're going to be releasing our own Prvn Fitness app. All of your training programs are going to be in one place. Every feedback piece that we've got over the last couple years, we're implementing. The first version that comes out, we're really excited about. And we actually have a really cool feedback tool now to where you guys can put in maybe some implementation things that you want to see from a tracking metric standpoint, some community board metrics. And each new version we come out with the app will have kind of those feedback points brought into it, which is awesome. This has been a huge one for us, and I'll let you touch on this a little bit. We've always had our communities kind of separated within a couple different platforms. I know going into this, you and I and TR, our goal has been we want to bring our community together. It's growing like crazy. We want these people to know each other. We want them to get to know each other, and we want them to be able to communicate because they're one big team across the world. So just touch on that a little bit on what our goal was with this app, what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so simply put, we want a one-stop shop so that our community can come onto one platform and then they can get all the consistent messaging and information together. I think from the back end for us as coaches, the disparity or the disconnect or even the slight variation in input or display on each platform isn't how we want to control it, and it can give off a different workout stimulus or can lead to questions. So for this, we want to be able to control that and allow everyone to feel connected, and we want to now grow into that and be inserted more in the community aspect of sharing more or providing more touch points on the one platform, being episodes like this where we talk more precisely about our strength cycles, providing more video tips, allowing the community to reach out to us, having our coaches be more engaged in that. That seems to be something that I personally want to see more of, and I know you do too. But also, there's a lot of features that we've been able to utilize through other platforms that we want to bring together because we see that they do a phenomenal job in some aspects of areas, what are appropriate for us, and we want to collect them and put them all together. So that's something that I know you've been working on in the back scenes for the last 3 or 4 months now. So I know that's a big project on your plate right now. So it's awesome to see that we're in those real discussions of like where you want to put things in the app, how they will look, talking to the coaches about the expectation and what we want to see happen. So to see that starting to like unravel is exciting for us as a brand.
Yeah, and I know when we spoke first, the biggest thing for you guys, and it was part of the mission statement, was evolution. And I think that's an easy word to throw around, right? But for us, it's evolving to what our athletes and our customers want. Like we have something that we want, But that's not always right. I think from a programming standpoint, that's always going to be the answer. And if people like that style, they're going to be with us. But when it comes to somebody using their phone every day and coming in and pulling up their programming, we've got so much feedback that we've gotten from people that this is why it's so exciting, because we want to continually evolve in that. And like I said, with the versions of the app, we now have full control over, hey, if this doesn't look as great as we wanted it to, let's do an update on that and we can change it.
Yep.
Because we've never had that flexibility in the past, which is super exciting for us. So yeah, guys, look out for that before the games, which is going to be awesome. You can actually get 30 days for free on our tester program right now. It'll give you a kind of an initiation into what we are looking into. And then you guys will automatically be integrated right into the app. There's no more switches you need to be do, which much smarter people than us are doing that on the back end, which is good. So excited for you guys on that one as well. So reach out to us, hit our website. It's got all of that information. So I think we've hit a lot today, which is good. And I think people got to see a really cool aspect.
I don't think we got as far as we wanted to on some of the questions. So we're going to save them.
Yeah, so we got plenty of questions for the next one, which will be awesome. Semifinals coming up. If you guys are at any of them, please reach out to us, drop us a DM, go to our website. We've got plenty more to come, and we're excited to see you guys.